After a 7-game homestand, the Rockies are back on the road and back in the division. They're on the West Coast. Tonight it's game 1 of 3 at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, a place the Rockies have played well lately. They hope to keep it going. Game 1, Rockies and Dodgers from the historic place, Dodger Stadium. Bud Norris, just acquired yesterday by this Dodger team, taking the hill. First time in a Dodger uniform. He is a native Californian. A little pressure on him, taking the spot perhaps tonight of Clayton Kershaw. Leadoff man for the Rockies is the birthday boy tonight, turning 30 today. Charlie Blackmon will be the leadoff hitter. We normally see Charlie in that spot. Here's the lineup for the Rockies, brought to you by Southwest Airlines. We'll start with Charlie Blackmon leading off and playing center field. Not quite ready, the shortstop. So the regular shortstop, and we're going to have Christian Adames again. He's going to hit second. Arenado's going to hit third, the LA native. Then Carlos Gonzalez, Reynolds, Descalso is going to get the start at second because LeMahieu is not ready, like Trevor Story. Nick Hundley behind the plate. Brandon Barnes swinging the bat well with Jorge De La Rosa on the mound.
Well, it's going to be Bud Norris's 11th start, 23rd game, all with Atlanta prior to this one. So there's got to be a little nerves even for the veteran, the 31-year-old, originally drafted by Houston. And what does he throw? He's fastball, slider, cut fastball, and a changeup. And talking to some scouts today about Bud Norris, I said, what has been the difference for him, especially the last 5 or 6 starts, because his numbers have been better? It's been the cut fastball. And it has some depth to it. So it's not just one that just stays on the same plane. It'll go across and then go down at the end.
First pitch of the ball game. Charlie Blackmon will take that low and outside in ball 1.
The birthday boy, I was talking to Charlie. I said, how you feel? He goes, man, 30's kind of hit me. As I went to get my age, pal.
He hits that one, but playable. That's into right center field. Center fielder Thompson, without Jock Peterson, will make the grab. 1 down. And let's set the Dodgers with the leather tonight. A few changes because of some injuries. Turner still at third. Corey Seager, the fine rookie at shortstop. The veteran Utley at second. Gonzalez at first. Yasmani Grandal behind the plate. Then Howie Kendrick in left. Trace Thompson taking the Peterson spot. And then Puig is back off the disabled list. He is out in right. Dodgers, a lot of injuries, including Jock Peterson and Clayton Kershaw on the disabled list the last 2 days. They've had more DL guys than any team in baseball this year.
We have 19 guys now on the DL for the Dodgers, with Jock Peterson being added today. And you're saying, well, where are the Rockies? Rockies right behind them at 18. I mean, that's not a number you want to be tied with somebody, but it just shows you they've overcome a lot on both sides.
A broken bat, 3-hopper to second base. Utley will take care of Adames for the second out. Think about that, Jeff. This team hanging around 500 with all those injuries to key players at times.
Yeah, and
not
that's
so bad.
Not at all. And you think about this too. They're only 4 games back in the wild card are the Rockies, so they got a lot to look at, and it's fun. You come out here and one of the start of this road trip, 6 games, 3 in LA, then 3 in San Francisco. To know that's where you are, and you're going to get a couple guys back, probably some sooner rather than later. And I mean, like Jake McGee, maybe tomorrow. Tyler Chatwood lined up for his Tuesday start.
Getting healthier, the Rockies heading into the second half of the season. Here's Arenado. Bud Norris got the first 2 in order, and that's in there for a strike. Talked to Nolan before the game, says I still love coming back to this building. I love playing here. He said, not just because I'm from here and my family's here, I just love the ballpark.
Yeah, you and I were walking in together off the bus. I said the same thing. This is one of those ballparks that is kind of timeless.
It is. And that's a strike. 0-2.
Maybe it has something to do with the weather. The playing surface is nice.
It's the oldest stadium outside of Wrigley and Fenway Park, and the largest capacity, 59,000 is capacity here at Dodger Stadium. Walt Weiss says the same thing. He loved playing here as well, except in the '88 World Series. He didn't like
that probably didn't have fond memories for him with that. Kurt Gibson.
Yep.
Hobbling around after the home run and the celebration.
Swing and a miss, and Bud Norris retires the Rockies in order in the top of the first inning. We'll come back to Dodger Stadium after this. To bat in the bottom of the first inning here at Dodger Stadium. Chavez Ravine, leadoff man Chase Utley, the veteran second baseman. Second year with the Dodgers will start. Let's look at that lineup for the Dodgers, brought to you by Southwest Airlines. It's a good mixture of young and old in this Dodger lineup. Corey Seager representing the young, Utley leading off, and Seager, Turner, the veteran Gonzalez, Howie Kendrick, Yasiel Puig in right field is hitting in the number 6 spot, then Trace Thompson, Yasmani Grandal, and then Bud Norris, the pitcher, will hit 9th.
Going up against Jorge De La Rosa, 13th ball game, 10th start tonight, 5-4 with a 6.47 ERA. And you're saying, well, that's still pretty high. But think about this: in the 6 starts before he went to the bullpen, he was 1-4 with an 11.41 ERA. But since that time, just a 1.96. Fastball, split finger, cut fastball, and the curveball, getting a lot of ground balls and a lot of ground balls, especially on the split finger, because he's keeping it down into the zone.
Always saying before the game, the key for this guy is get ahead in the count, fastball command.
Yeah, you'll say that about a lot of pitchers, but I think it's even more imperative for Jorge, because when he does that, he's able to throw that split finger that acts like a changeup for him.
Lefty on lefty with Utley, and he lines that one to left, but Brandon Barnes comes on and makes a grab.
Well, Barnes, he's made a couple nice plays in the last 2 ball games.
He's just a very good defensive outfielder. Just look at the Rockies defensively tonight. You got Barnes in left, Blackman in center, Gonzalez in right, so the regular outfield. Arenado at third with Adames at short for Trevor Story. D'Angelo Scalzo for LeMahieu. Reynolds at first, and Hundley behind the plate for De La Rosa. By the way, with Adames and Descalso, we think, we were told anyway, Story and LeMahieu might be back as soon as tomorrow. Here is Seager, the great-looking rookie who is really swinging a bat well.
A 13-game hitting streak for Corey, 415 over that time.
17 homers now. There's a breaking ball that missed, and the count 1-1. Watching batting practice, I'm just amazed at the bat speed of this guy, Jeff. It's amazing.
And for a young kid, too. That's why he's been one of those hype prospects even before he came to the big leagues. One of the top in all of the minor league baseball. I mean, you could go either 1-2 between he and Buxton.
There's a good breaking pitch, 1-2.
And I'd like to see Jorge throw that a lot tonight here at Dodger Stadium. That big curveball, because guys are hitting only below 100 against it. 091.
Older brother Kyle playing for Seattle. Got a younger brother playing college baseball. It's a baseball family, the Seagers. Strike 3 called. It caught the outside corner.
Well, that was all set up by the curveball that was prior to this pitch. maybe a touch outside the Subaru strike zone, but so close. And the well received from Nick Hundley to hold it for Will Little. Corey Seager said, well, you threw me a curveball. I think it's out. But you're still walking back to the bench.
Just a little woo is all the umpire.
You really can't argue too much when it's that close on the strike zone.
If I was the umpire, I would have given the pitcher that call too.
I agree, as long as you stay consistent out there.
Well, because it's De La Rosa, I would have given him the call. And the Rockies.
There you go. You got that, Will?
Justin Turner, the third baseman, is next. So De La Rosa looking for a 1-2-3 like his counterpart Bud Norris had. It's in the dirt, makes the count 1 ball and 1 strike. This guy always seems to hit well against the Rockies. Turner on the road trip, the Dodgers came off, went 8 for 11. And there's ball 2, 2-1.
Got off to a slow start, did Justin Turner. I just think about all the hits that he had last year, all the home runs, key hits that he had for the Dodgers.
Had some struggles last year offensively at times. He carried them for a while. Hit that one well. Barnes on the run. He will catch that one down near his shoe tops. 2 good catches in left by Brandon Barnes, and it is that. It's a 1-2-3 for De La Rosa. Second inning coming up next. All right, Mark, thank you. Tell you who, Jeff, puts on a show in batting. He's not going to be in the home run derby. Who puts on a show in batting practice? Mark Reynolds with home runs. Oh, my goodness.
You know, between he and Cargo today alone, I mean, they probably hit 2 to 3 dozen balls out into the seats.
Speaking of Cargo, here he is leading off the top of the second for the Rockies. A 1-2-3 first for Bud Norris. The fastball's upstairs. What a month of June for Carlos Gonzalez, just looking to keep it going. And July, normally the best month for Cargo in his career. Well above 300 the month of July for his career. 1 ball, 1 strike on him. And take a look at those numbers. They're awfully impressive when you look at the way he has hit this year. A little drop off in May, but he came back at the end of May, and then June just 29 RBIs in the month of June.
Well, and he went through that stretch in May where he wasn't really driving in a lot of runs. He's still getting his base hits, a lot of more to left field. But now you look at his numbers, 329, 18 home runs, 51 RBIs.
Down the count 1-2 to Bud Norris, and fouls that one away. Whenever he goes into one of those slumps, the manager inevitably is asked, hey, what's wrong with Cargo? And Walt says the same thing. Nothing. Just be patient, because it's going to come back, and it's going to come back big.
With a vengeance, and we've seen it, some of the ones on this last homestand where he hit the, the 3-run home run, and he had the grand slam, another 3-run home run.
1-2 was fouled away.
Cargo has got a joke when he was in the batting case today during batting practice, because he hit one that it was about 3 rows from going out of here, and it landed in some lady's lap. And he said, hey, Carlos Gonzalez is hitting, you better stay awake.
That sounds like him. Got him on a fastball away. Let's look at the storylines of the series, brought to you by Office Liquidators. Rockies and Dodgers take advantage of Kershaw, of course, not being on the mound tonight for the Rockies, and De La Rosa's been pitching great, as we talked about. Just keep that rolling as well. And then Carlos Gonzalez, hoping that his great month of June carries over into the month of July. Mark Reynolds is next for the Rockies. Guys swinging the bat very consistently as well. Strike one to him. Norris has retired the first 4 he's seen. 9 for 27 on the homestand. Reynolds at 293. Home runs have picked up with 8. He's got some RBIs. That's in there.
And that's a slider from Bud Norris. It has some curveball action, but it's harder than what his curveball would be. And he really doesn't even throw one of those. It's more of a changeup, as I mentioned, and also a cut fastball.
Strike 3 called. He struck out 3 in a row.
Bud Norris is obviously pumped up, because that last pitch was 96 miles an hour, dotted on the outside corner on the Subaru strike zone, and out of the hand of Bud Norris. Straight 4-seam on the Subaru Supermo. You got 2 sliders away, and then bam, lock you up with the fastball.
Let's see if Daniel Descalso could get something going for the Rockies. He's swinging the bat well. 3 hits his last time out. And that's low. He has 1 homer this year, Descalso. Came here at Dodger Stadium. 16 RBIs in limited time and a .385 batting average. He's been terrific. Playing second base again tonight for LeMahieu. He'll line that one to left field for a base hit. That's what Descalso has been doing, using the whole field.
Coming off a 3-for-3 performance on Wednesday against Toronto. That was a flat slider, and he stays on it. Drives it to left field. Justin Turner was still honoring the bunt, playing in even with the bag.
So there's a first hit, first base runner for the Rockies tonight, and now Nick Hundley will get the chance to hit. Rockies coming off a 3-4 homestand against Arizona and Toronto. Checking in at 37-41, 19-21 on the road. First time on the stretch for Norris, and that pitch is high. Mark Nick, I should say, a little quieter in the homestand. He was 4 for 24 at the plate. He had some loud outs and some very good swings, according to his hitting coach, Blake Doyle. And that's in there, upper end of the strike zone.
Nick's mom and dad are in attendance. They were down in Miami. They were in New York. Now that his dad's retired, said, I want to come watch you play. I want to see some of these ballparks.
He was early in the year in introducing people in San Diego to his parents. His father, a long time college football coach, and a great one. 1-1 the count, and they'll foul that one away. It's interesting with Bud Norris. The Dodgers said, hey, 2 things. Number one, the manager really liked Norris when he pitched last year for San Diego, and they said, you know what, the way he's been pitching lately, he looks like a different guy, so they went ahead and pulled the trigger on the trade.
The last 6 games, 5 starts for Bud Norris. He's 2-1 with a 2.08 ERA, and during that stretch, that's the 5th lowest ERA.
Yeah, that's what the
in all of baseball.
That's what the Dodgers are excited about. 1-2. Yeah, hit Nick Hundley. Just grazed him, and Nick will get first base, and that pushes Descalso down to second.
The fielder, number 1.
Nick's tough. Doesn't matter where you're going to hit me. You're going to hit me on the elbow, I'll take my hit by pitch. Now we'll have to see if he comes up next time, has one of those elbow guards on.
Yeah.
I'd be like, you have a couple of those, please?
Well, Brandon Barnes gets the chance to hit. He had a terrific homestand as well. He went 10 for 24. Getting some playing time and taking advantage of it. Gerardo Parra still out.
Gerardo's going to do some running tomorrow. Spoke with him in the dugout today, and he's getting a little antsy.
Yep. He said, I'm very tired of hitting a baseball off a tee.
But it is nice to have the depth of someone like Brandon Barnes when Gerardo's out. And Brandon doing what he did on that homestand. That's a tough role for anybody to be in. I'm not sure when you're going to start or how long you're going to be here.
Foul that away. He's down 0-2. Barnes did not swing the bat all that well before he went down to AAA, but since he's come back, he's been on fire.
11 games since he's been back, hitting .324.
And solid numbers to Albuquerque while he was down there, just waiting for the chance to come back, and here it is.
And that's the key. Don't pout. Don't go down there and say, oh man, I should be in the big leagues. Wait, he should have been, but he wasn't because of a numbers game. But he did his thing down there.
And that's strike 3 called. Norris comes back with another strikeout. That is number 4, and the Rockies are done in the top of the 2nd inning. Back to LA after these messages. Colorado Rockies Baseball and Root Sports is brought to you by the 2016 Toyota Tundra and your hometown Toyota stores. And by Southwest Airlines. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. Looking back to Los Angeles, no score in the bottom of the 2nd inning. Pitchers have been sharp so far. De La Rosa for the Rockies and Bud Norris, the recent acquisition for the Dodgers. It was a 1-2-3 first for De La Rosa. Now we'll start with Adrian Gonzalez. There's that curveball that Jeff likes so well, but that one missed.
But even at that, it didn't miss by much, so a hitter now has to honor that one. He has to say he might throw it on the first pitch. I've got to be ready.
And that one's hit down the left field line, playable for Brandon Barnes. He's been busy out in left field. One down.
That one was easier than the first two he had.
Howie Kendrick, the veteran infielder normally, but playing outfield these days, at times anyway, for the Dodgers.
That's 25 starts in left field.
Yeah, yep. I think he's played left field every game the Rockies have played against these Dodgers. That's outside for ball one. Former Angel, Jacksonville, Florida native. Signed by Tom Kochman, whose son Casey played for a while in the majors.
Tom was a long-time scout manager in the minor leagues. Spent a lot of time in Boise. That's where the Rockies rookie ball team is now, but it used to be the Angels. Koch was their manager forever.
Rare combination. Scout away from the summer and a manager in the minors in the summer. Here's a good pitch. 1-2.
Well, and some of the guys that he said, hey, let's draft him, then he ended up managing them.
Exactly. And they loved him too.
Yeah.
One and two on Howie Kendrick. One out in the bottom of the second. No score. And the pitch bounced up there that time. And to count 2 balls, 2 strikes. I think it's interesting with De La Rosa, Jeff. You talked about the mechanics changing a little bit. There's not that long pause in the middle of windup anymore.
No, and he also has more of the hip turn as he's going to home, so that allows his body to get coiled back like a hitter would, but it also allows his arm to get back up on top. And that ball will come out now with a better plane as it heads down to the plate.
Full count no on Kendrick. Steve Foster, pitching coach, is talking about De La Rosa the other day, and he said, you know what, a veteran like this who's had a lot of success, willing to listen to some changes in the mechanics, says a lot about the guy. And it's up the middle. Big hop for Descalso.
I like how he set his feet instead of trying to make that throw on the run.
Let's take a look at De La Rosa against the Dodgers.
Yeah, and when you have struggles early in your career against the team, but then are able to turn it around, his last 6 starts compared to his first 15 starts, huge difference in the ERA, but the batting average against. I mean, when you're allowing a 169 against, that's why you have the low ERA, not many home runs given up, and you're 4-1.
And sharp early, Yasiel Puig now is the hitter. 2 outs and nobody on for the Dodgers. Puig coming off a stint on the disabled list. Got the inside edge. Six homers, 24 RBIs. In limited time because of the injury. 253 batting average for Puig. Fouled that away, so working quickly ahead. De La Rosa 0-2. Puig is from Cuba, both parents engineers in Cuba. Tried to defect once, got caught, suspended from the Cuban national team. Second time around, he made it out of the country and to the big leagues.
Just what they have to go through just to be able to play. He and Jose Fernandez down in Miami. Some of those hardships people don't understand or don't realize what they have to do, and then just to be able to come over here and just play the game.
Swing and a miss. He got him with the breaking pitch. Might have been that changeup thrown by De La Rosa, who's retired the 6 Dodgers that he has seen. We'll head to the top of the 3rd. Back to LA after this. All right, Mark, thank either one of those would be great in my mind.
It's funny because people will say, oh, does it affect your swing? Does it, I mean, what happens to these guys after they hit in the home run derby? And I think it's funny only in the fact that if they don't hit coming out of it, then it's because of the home run derby.
Right.
But every batting practice that we watch, everybody does it the last round or two. They're all trying to hit home runs.
Absolutely.
So it's not like they're changing their swing.
Here's De La Rosa, and he fouls that one, keeps his at bat alive, 0-2. Top of the third, no score at Dodger Stadium. Rockies have had a couple of base runners, had him last inning with a single and a hit batsman, but the strikeout of Barnes ended the inning for Bud Norris. And that missed inside. I asked Todd Frazier, who won the home run derby one time, I said, did it affect you at all afterward? Heck no. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was great.
But it's always a topic of conversation. Right. Oh, you don't want them to hurt their swing.
De La Rosa spoils a pretty good pitch there, still 1-2. 214 this year, 124 for his career. A little tougher out the plate this year than he has been the last couple. He's got 3 hits this season. And he works the count to 2-2. Yeah.
Bud Norris out of Cal Poly, 6th round pick, 2006, 189th overall.
And he works the count full.
Yeah, there you go, De La.
Northern California raised was Bud Norris. Two-way player at Cal Poly for a year or two, and then a pitcher exclusively. Here's a payoff pitch to De La Rosa. Swing and a miss.
5th strikeout for De La, or excuse me, for Bud Norris.
19, Charlie Blackmon.
Charlie Blackmon hitting for the second time. A great month of June for the birthday boy, turning 30 today. Last week's National League Player of the Week. It's a June to remember. I tell you what, since he come off the disabled list, Jeff, he's been absolutely outstanding at the plate.
Well, and he's played at every game. Started all but one of those games.
Scheduled to take a day off in the last homestand. Didn't work out that way because of some injuries.
And an illness to Ryan Rayburn, who became ill right after batting practice. Charlie thought he was going to get the day off. Then he goes out and throws a couple hits. Actually 3 hits, 3 RBIs that day.
1 ball, 1 strike on Blackmon. Bud Norris with the 1-1 pitch. And that's conked foul. 1-2 on Charlie Blackmon.
I like what we saw on the bottom of the graphic just a moment ago, where he hit his first home run on his 25th birthday.
Great student of the game. I don't think there's anybody watches more video on that Rockies roster than this guy.
And it's not only the pitcher and what he's going to throw, but it's also the pitcher and what he's doing when he's at first base.
I think he watches that as much as anything. Trying to find tendencies. That's what he keeps telling us. Two and two on Charlie Blackmon. 1 down at the top of the third. That one's hit to center. Thompson started out, then the shortstop will take care of things. That's Seager for the second out. Fans of the Rockies score 7 or more runs. Go to participating Colorado Taco Bell locations the next day between 4 and 6 p.m. and get your Rockies taco special. Liv Moss at Taco Bell. There were lots of tacos on that homestand, other than that last game against Toronto.
That's Rockies after that game on Wednesday. That snapped a streak of 5 straight games where they scored at least 9 runs. I mean, they were just banging the ball all over the ballpark. taking advantage of the other team's miscues.
This guy was part of it. He had a very good homestand, Adames. He's hitting for the second time. Grounded out to second his first time.
And as we were talking about Brandon Barnes, when he was at the plate, it helps a manager when you have somebody like Christian Adames. With Trevor Story being injured, you want to maybe give him another day. You don't feel like you have to rush him back because the guy that's replacing him is not playing well. Well, Christian's playing well. So you can afford to say, okay, take another day, make sure that's right before you go back out there.
Same way with Descalso at second for LeMahieu. Daniel swinging the bat very well. And then tonight you get a couple extra left-handed bats in against a right-handed starter.
Yeah, for Bud Norris this year, lefties are hitting 278 against some right-handers 242. Now, DJ and Trevor aren't your normal right-handed guys, but it is nice when you have that option.
Adames, of course, a switch hitter, hitting left-handed here. 0-2 the count. Keep in mind, too, Christian Adames is a guy that the Rockies don't want to send down and take the chance of losing. He's won a couple batting titles in the minors. I mean, this is a talented player.
Well, and also won a batting title in winter ball.
Yep.
That was a couple years ago. Yeah, Christian out of options, but I think he's played his way now to where that's not even a part of the conversation. And these at-bats where you can string 3 or 4 games together, you pile up 20, 25 at-bats. When you go back to your role, which he's done a lot of this year as a pinch hitter, that just adds more volume to your looks at the plate.
Spoiled, another good pitch there. That's down the left field line that reached the stands. The count is 1-2, but series of foul balls from Adames.
The hardest thing for a bench guy to do is to get that timing when the only guys you get to face are the late inning guys. Now, Christian's seen enough pitching that once Trevor comes back, then you can be able to go back and be in your role that you started this year at.
And again, a foul ball off the bat of Adames. Keeps battling. Jeff, you get along well with Bud Norris, scratch golfer.
Oh,
He might even beat you.
yeah, I think he's got me by a couple.
Does he?
Yeah. Scratch. Well, he's a pitcher.
Yeah.
What?
They're
Come on.
normally pretty good at golf.
Come on. We have 4 days to perfect it.
Oh, that's why. I was going to ask you why they're so good. Yeah. Now I know. And finally, a ball in play, but grounded to second baseman again, and 4-3 put out for Adames for the second time in the game. But Norris rolling right along. We'll come back to L.A. in a moment. Colorado Rockies baseball and Root Sports is brought to you by Subaru. Love, it's what makes a Subaru. And by CenturyLink, your link to what's next. At the bottom of the third inning here, Tommy Lasorda, number retired, longtime manager of the Dodgers, still here every single night, they say, on home games.
Quite an ambassador to the game in all the years between playing and coaching and managing.
Someone asked him the other day, why do you keep coming to these games? He said, I love baseball. I can't stay away. He's just waiting down there for someone to come talk to him. Yeah. Maybe bring him a piece of pizza or something.
I'm sure he'll be here tomorrow for the old timers game that they have planned prior to the regular scheduled game.
He'll be basking in that one tomorrow. Trace Thompson is the hitter for the Dodgers. And the count moves to 1-2. A walk-off home run against the Rockies this year. De La Rosa has retired the first 6 that he has seen. 2-2. Thompson from that great athletic family. Father Michael was an NBA star. Of course, you got brother Clay with the Golden State Warriors. But this guy says it was baseball from day one for him. He said in 4th grade, I wanted to become a Major League Baseball player, not like my dad, a basketball player. Played high school basketball.
Right.
He was a baseball guy. Former White Sox picked up on a trade during the offseason by the Dodgers.
It's been a pretty special couple of months here with his brother playing in the NBA Finals. Didn't turn out the way the Thompson family was hoping, I'm sure. Leading 3-1 and then getting taken by the Cavaliers.
And ball 4. He was ahead in the count, came back and lost Trace Thompson. So that's the first base runner for the Dodgers tonight.
Catcher number 9, Yasmani Grandal.
Now, Rockies Dugout Stores are the place for all things Rockies and the only place you can get the Nolan Arenado Colorado Bobblehead Series. You gotta get to the Dugout Store if you want those bobbleheads.
Bobbleheads are quite popular, by the way. We had a garage sale recently. They were the first things to go. Not Rockies bobbleheads.
I was going to say, why were you getting rid of the bobbleheads?
No, we were not Rockies bobbleheads. Seriously, people walked into our garage and went right to the bobbleheads. That's amazing.
Did you have to barter?
A little bit.
Yeah.
But there was heavy demand, so we didn't have to too much. Man at first, nobody out for the Dodgers. Yasmani Grandal, the catcher, switch hitter hitting right-handed. And that pitch got in there for a strike, the off-speed pitch. It's 1-1 on Grandal.
Snuck on the backside of the Subaru strike zone.
De La Rosa first time in the stretch tonight. And that's inside, 2-1. Grandal also from the country of Cuba, although he came over, story goes, legally at the age of 10. So born in Cuba, raised in Miami. And hits that one up the middle. Tough play for Adames. He'll flip to second. On to first. It's a double play.
How about the transfer from both of those guys up the middle? Not hit very hard. You know there's a slow runner going down the line, but still as a second baseman, you know that guy's going to be barreling right down on you. Trace Thompson can run, so you have to get rid of it. The other key thing, though, watch where Daniel gets this. Okay, on the Subaru Supermo, he steps off the back side of the bag, so the bag's going to absorb a lot of the energy from that base runner.
Wow, that wasn't even close. I didn't think it was hit hard enough either. Grandal, they had the right guy running. And now Bud Norris, the pitcher. 2 outs, nobody on. Norris, a career 148 hitter this year, 2 for 12 at 167. That one to third. There's Nolan. Fire to first base, and the Side retired by Jorge De La Rosa. Still no scores. We head to the 4th inning in Los Angeles.
Well, maybe not. Not saying that it's not a possibility, but I like what he's been doing pitching-wise.
Yeah.
I think we'll just stick with that for now. Madison Bumgarner, first time, so it was it's the first time that they haven't used the DH and used the pitcher since 1976.
Correct.
He went 1 for 4, hit a double,
I know he did.
scored a run.
Which is not surprising, right?
No.
The way he swings a bat. I remember when he first came up, I asked the Giants broadcasters, hey, what kind of pitcher is this guy? Well, we don't know, but he can really swing the bat.
He can hit.
Speaking of hitting, this guy can do it too. Nolan Arenado, first time up, struck out against Bud Norris, leads off the 4th. No score here in Los Angeles. For Bud Norris, best season 2014 with Baltimore. So a couple of years ago went 15-8. And he struggled some last year. Strike 1 on Arenado.
Between Baltimore and San Diego last year, he was 3-11 with the 672.
Against the Rockies, he's had 5 starts, 10 appearances. His ERA is 6.23 in the history against the Rockies. Defensive shift on the infield for the Dodgers against Arenado. And that's in there for a strike. Nolan thought that might have been a little high. There are the numbers against the Rockies. He's got 2 wins and 1 loss, but the ERA is up, and a lot of that damage was done against him at Coors Field. That seems to be the way it is with a lot of pitchers. That is up too high, 1-2.
Right now, he's looking like the different pitcher, the guy that pitched for Baltimore a couple years ago than what I remember from San Diego last year.
2-2 to Arenado. ...21 homers, 65 RBIs for Arenado on the year. .295 the batting average. And a little tapper foul used to protect the strike zone that time by Nolan. In the month of June, a .311 batting average for Arenado, 5 homers, 22 RBIs. Not quite the production of the teammate Gonzalez, but he had a terrific month of June. But
Just looking at that white piece on his glove.
hey, what is that?
I don't know. Just the coloring of the glove. Right here. Look at that.
A little deceptive, perhaps, to a hitter.
That, I mean, obviously, if I noticed it from up here, I'm sure at the batter's box, you can see it.
Got him again.
Number 5, Carlos Gonzalez.
Looks for right now, the Mako big hit. Let's go back to that Toronto series for Carlos Gonzalez against Jay Happ. That was a no-doubter to right field. Cargo knew it as soon as it left his bat. Big hit of the game brought to you by Mako. Second decker at Coors Field. He struck out his first time up tonight. Bud Norris has 6 strikeouts now. And that one hit right into the shift. Utley is going to grab that. Out number 2. I don't think he hit it all that hard. Fairly easy play for Utley, the second baseman. So Mark Reynolds will try to keep this inning going for the Rockies. Strikeout victim first time up was Mark Reynolds.
On 3 pitches, 2 sliders at between 86 and 88, and then a fastball at 96. Everything was away to Mark.
See some teams put a shift on him. The Dodgers do not do that. At least they're not at this at bat. He went inside and low and missed 1-0.
So far, the same pattern to Mark. First 2 pitches, the first time sliders. This time, both of them sliders.
Good hard slider. Upper 80s on that slider by Bud Norris. It's been a great pitch tonight. There's an even better slider. That was down at 84. So took a little something off that. Now 1-2.
And for Bud Norris, he starts on the first base side of the rubber. And then when he steps towards, especially a right-handed batter, he'll step more towards them. So he'll crossfire and throw across his body, and that even deceives the hitters even more.
A fastball there. That hit 95 miles an hour, so still very good velocity. But low, makes it 2 balls, 2 strikes on Reynolds. And the 2-2. Swing and a miss. He got him with that slider out of the strike zone. 7 strikeouts now for Bud Norris in his Dodger debut. Bottom of the 4th coming up in Los Angeles. T-Mobile, greater coverage of baseball brought to you by T-Mobile. And the Rockies against the division this season have fared pretty well, 21-20 overall. And the Rockies last year at this time did not fare so well against the division. That was one of the difficult things about last season, was division record was not healthy. This year, much better.
And out on the road, they're 11-8 too. So a lot of positive things against the National League West, and that's where you have to do it because you're playing so many extra games against them.
Chase Utley leads off for the Dodgers, so the leadoff man hitting for the second time, lined out to left to Barnes, first time up. He is a Los Angeles native, played at UCLA, All-American there, long-time member of the Phillies. That's a bit high. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Even after being here a couple of years, it still seems weird to see Chase Utley in a Dodger uniform.
I'm with you. He's had a terrific career. 1-1 pitch is outside.
And all those battles back in 07, 08, 2009.
Long Beach Polytech High School. Boy, a long line of professional athletes from that high school. Tony Gwynn, Milton Bradley, Randy Moffett, bunch of football players. It's bounded toward first, to foul ball. Cameron Diaz went to his high school.
Really?
Yeah. And Snoop Dogg.
Don't forget about Snoop Dogg.
No. But there's football players. Mark Carrier and Deshaun Jackson, Willie McGinnis, Tyus Edney, point guard.
And Cameron Diaz.
And Cameron Diaz. Don't forget Cameron Diaz. Full count on Utley. Utley was drafted by the Dodgers in the second round out of high school and did not sign. Went to UCLA, ended up in the first round of the Phillies. Pretty rare a guy gets drafted second round and doesn't sign, but Utley did that. And missed all 4. Second base runner for the Dodgers, and both on walks. Trace Thompson walked to begin the third. He was raced on a double play, now a walk to Utley. And Corey Seager is up there. Seager struck out looking his first time up. And shortstops go. This guy, a big guy, 6'4", 215. Right back up the middle, right between the legs of De La Rosa. And that'll get Utley to third base. That ball looked like a double play, but De La Rosa couldn't grab it.
Hockey terms, it'd be right to the 5-hole. Just didn't get the glove down. It's in a good fielding position. Just couldn't quite bend, and it was in the perfect spot, right back up the middle. Even with the Damas diving, Utley, who walked, is now at third.
Here's the first real threat for the Dodgers tonight. Now Justin Turner will come up against De La Rosa. No score in the bottom of the 4th inning, but first and third, nobody out. Turner, another man that lined to left his first time. Ball 1. Justin Turner is a Southern California guy, played at Long Beach State. Prior to playing there, he was a bat boy for Long Beach State. A couple of years with the Mets and some very good years here with the Dodgers.
Well, this is really where he's made a name for himself in LA.
Good pitch off the handle of the bat that time, De La Rosa. Cal State Fullerton, I'm sorry, not Long Beach State for Turner. My mistake.
Both of them great programs.
Yeah, that's for sure. 1 ball, 1 strike on Turner. De La Rosa trying to work out of some trouble. Time given to Turner at the plate. He's always hit well against the Rockies, and this season no exception for Turner against Colorado. Over 300. Last 28 games against the Rockies. How about 378? Swing and a miss. Big rip taken there, and he came up empty.
Everything had been down, and then they climbed the ladder. It wasn't a great pitch on the Subaru Supermo from De La Rosa, more of the slider that didn't do anything. But you'll take it, and now you have to hunt the strikeout.
Yep, exactly.
You have to look for something, make it enticing to the hitter. And that'll usually mean that split finger. Start it at the knees and work it to the ankles.
And time given to Hundley at the plate.
Ryan Will Little's emphatic too that it was Nick who had called timeout.
The Dodgers say a balk, and the umpire says no, timeout first.
You can see De La Rosa throw his hands up, like why? Emotions going everywhere tonight.
Yep. Interesting too. Utley walked halfway down the line from third and then walked back to back. He thought it was a balk and he was going to score.
I think now for De La, he's got to make sure he takes even less off. I mean more off. Excuse me. Throw it easier. You know, don't get caught in that trap of, well, now I'm fired up. I got to throw you a fastball.
1-2 is the count on Turner. Swing and a miss, and foul tipped, held on by the catcher Hundley. Exactly what the doctor ordered. De La Rosa gets a big punch out for out number 1.
And you can see where it was on the Subaru strike zone. It was a split finger. Big swing from Justin Turner. I think he had a higher leg kick than he normally does because he was going to hit that one to Pasadena.
1 away. Now the double play ball is intact out of the inning. You got Adrian Gonzalez at the plate. Doesn't run all that well.
He handles the bat so well, though. He'll try to lift this one into the outfield.
And he's going to have a base hit to right to put his team up. Got the ground ball, but it made the hole. 1-0 Dodgers.
Adrian Gonzalez has made a career out of driving runs in. Where this ends up. Boy, that's just a good piece of hitting. Because as much as that broke, that could have easily been hit right to Daniel for a double play. You're out of the inning. He found the hole. But Adrian Gonzalez now all-time against the Rockies in 154 games has 125 RBIs.
Yeah, not a bad pitch at all. Somehow he pulled that ball that was on the outside. Usually you roll that thing over for the double play. Howie Kendrick hit the ball to second his first time up, and he'll hit this one weakly toward third. Arenado is going to go to first base and get the out there.
Nolan was begging that he went out of the baseline, that he wasn't able to tag him.
Number 66, Yasiel Puig.
For Seager, he's able to adjust so he doesn't run into the fielder. Well, that's pretty close, though, because he went 2 strides into the grass, but I think what they're saying was he was already by the fielder.
An argument from the Rockies bench. So 2 away for Puig, a strikeout victim. Second and third, 2 outs. De La Rosa trying to limit the damage to 1 run, and that almost hit Puig. It's stopped by Hundley. Ball 1. So the walk pays off for the Dodgers. Utley walked and has scored the run. A walk and 2 singles in the inning. Staying in the stretch, De La Rosa. And that missed inside, 2-0. First base is open. You've got Trayce Thompson on deck. And that's ball 3 to Puig.
I wouldn't throw him a fastball here.
I was going to say it. You know he's got the green light.
Yeah.
He's itching to take a poke at something. And there's ball 4. Second walk in the inning. Puig is down to first. Bases are loaded now for Trayce Thompson.
Trayce Thompson.
Last time Thompson was up there, De La Rosa got ahead in the count and walked him. That didn't hurt back in the 3rd inning.
He laid off the split fingers that Jorge was throwing to Trayce.
Two outs, bases loaded, a run in for the Dodgers. And that's in the dirt. Hundley able to smother that one, ball 1. Two hits for the Dodgers, both in this inning against De La Rosa, plus 2 walks. The sign he likes from Hundley. Fouled away. Threw him a fastball that time at 92. Count 1 ball, 1 strike on Thompson. Thompson, one of the rookies in this game tonight that have had impressive seasons. Seager and Story certainly have, and Thompson not too far behind them with home runs. That's why they traded for him. They like his home run potential. Ground ball up the middle. Tough play for Adames. He's going to throw to first base and safe at first. And the run scores.
All right. We're going to take at least pause for a moment to see. Christian might have had a better opportunity to go to second base.
Surprised he didn't.
With Yasiel Puig.
Yasmani Grandal.
Ball in glove foot. Well, I think he's out from that angle on the Subaru Supermo. Because there's still some heel in the air.
I'm with you.
And how about the stretch from Mark, because he did the right thing, go to the back side of the bag where that throw is taking you. Ball in glove right there. So get back to New York now.
It's a tough call.
It is, and it goes back to, is there enough evidence to overturn what was called on the field?
That's a huge decision here. It means 1 run and the inning over, or 2 runs, inning continues. Again, decision is not made by these umpires, although they do show the replay on the scoreboard.
And both of these umpires here are watching that replay as we're watching this replay, just like you at home.
He looks to me like he's out, but these have surprised me many times in the last couple of years.
I just think his foot has not contacted the bag yet, and ball's in the glove.
I'm not surprised it's taken a while to make this decision, because it is a tough one.
So they can slow it down even more of a frame by frame.
It was one angle where the crowd was cheering. The other one they have been pretty silent with. De La Rosa will throw a couple pitches just to stay loose.
Just from the angles we've seen the ball in the glove before that foot hits the bag. Well, here we go. We're going to get the call. He is out.
Yeah, out at first base. Good challenge by the Rockies, and the damage is limited. Turns out to be a very good play by Christian Adames. But the Dodgers are on the board. 1-0 they lead. This call originally safe, then changed to out. 1-0 Dodgers. All right, Mark, thank you. I can tell you one guy that will not be considered, I believe, for the Rockies, Eddie Butler. I don't think they're going to contact Eddie to hit in the home run derby.
No. Well, the Rockies need to get that run back now.
Top of the fifth, Daniel Descalso leading off for the Rockies. Hundley and Barnes to follow. And the base hit back in the second. That's the one hit the Rockies have tonight. 1 ball, 1 strike on Descalso. With that base hit, .396 batting average on the year. With the base hit to left field. Bud Norris delivers a 1-1. Swung right through that one. 1-2. Now 9 for 22 against Norris. Wow.
409. That helps when your manager's making that lineup up. Asking for the breaking pitch down.
It was. Tonight for the Dodgers, Bud Norris, the 23rd different starting pitcher since the beginning of last year for Los Angeles.
10th different one this year.
Yeah. And they still lead the league in ERA.
I think part of it helps with this ballpark,
sure.
Obviously. Some of the other parks in the National League West.
They thought Bud Norris would fit well in the ballpark. Of course, any pitcher has the advantage here, but he's more of a fly ball pitcher than anything, and they don't mind that here in Los Angeles with this big park. And the ball doesn't carry much at night either. Full count now on Descalso.
Especially now, once that sun goes down during batting practice from till about 7:30ish, 7:45, 8 o'clock, the ball will still go. But then once it hits about 8, just, that big blanket comes over. Good eye.
Yeah, ball forward to Descalso. Great at bat there. Leadoff man aboard. That's potential tying run. Descalso at first base. Time for the Coors Light Cold Hard Facts, brought to you by Clean, Crisp Coors Light. And some facts about Bud Norris. Most different teams played for since 2005. 4 for Latos, J.C. Ramirez, and this guy, Bud Norris. Baltimore, San Diego, Atlanta, and the Dodgers. Baltimore and San Diego last year, Atlanta and the Dodgers this year for Norris.
And we were talking about Matt Latos on the broadcast the other day, where he was 4-0 with an ERA below 2 with the White Sox, and then he just blew up. ERA over 7, and they released him.
Ground ball hit to short. That's going to be 2. Huntley on to first. That's an easy double play for the Dodgers. Hit sharply by Huntley, but right at Seager. 2 away.
That's the old tailor-made double play. Easiest play for a shortstop and second base combo. And it's hit that hard. A couple hops right into the glove. It's just, you can almost do this one in your sleep with your eyes closed. Just flip it over there and make the throw.
It's an interesting double play combination these days for the Dodgers. The veteran Utley and the rookie Seager. Brandon Barnes swings at a pitch that was out of the strike zone, strike 1. He struck out looking first time up.
Yeah, 1 of 7 strikeouts tonight for Bud Norris. 4 have been on the fastball, 3 on the slider.
That one fouled away, 0-2 with Barnes. Nothing Dodgers, top of the 5th inning. Only 3 hits so far in the game. Dodgers had 2 hits in the last inning to score their run. Oh, 2 pitch to Barnes. And that one's hit well to center. Going back is Thompson. Still going back. Makes a catch up against the wall. Oh, in the nighttime heavy air, Barnes sent that one a long way. But Trace Thompson able to gather it in for out number 3. The Rockies close, but they couldn't score. Still 1-0 Dodgers. Shot of the Santa Monica Pier and the beach, Pacific Park Amusement Park at Sunset. Santa Monica Beach, one of the famous beaches in this LA area. As The Rockies and Dodgers do battle in Game 1 of their 3-game series here at Dodger Stadium on a delightful night, as we normally get in the summertime here in Southern California. 1-0 Dodgers. As Monty Grandal will lead off, the number 8 hitter, and a breaking ball drops in there nicely. Strike 1 from De La Rosa. Hit into a double play himself, 6-4-3 back his first time up in the 3rd inning. Pops this one up behind home plate. Hundley's got room, and 1 down. Welcome back, folks, to Dodger Stadium. Jerry Schemmel with Jeff Hewson. And Jeff, so far, De La Rosa kind of living up to the last handful of starts he's had.
Yeah, unfortunately had that walk to start off that last inning, but was able to limit the damage just to 1 run. So you're looking at this ball game and you say, okay, 1 run. If it's 3 or 4, the way Bud Norris is pitching and the way the back into the bullpen, especially for the Dodgers, has been throwing lately, you say, well, it might be a little high, but De La Rosa, to his credit, got out of there, got the big call at first on the challenge to overturn that. A lot of positives. Now the one negative is you got to get some offense going.
Yep. Bud Norris, the hitter, has baffled the Rockies for the most part in the first 5 innings. He's 0 for 1. He'll let that one foul. He takes some pretty good swings, and there was one of them, but he's now down 0-2. I've got to share the story about how he got the nickname Bud. Going with his family to a restaurant at the age of 3. And he said after this pitch, 0-2 pitch, and he swings and misses at that one, and Norris is out. So the family's going to the restaurant, and they order beers, and he, at 3 years old, says, I'll do the same thing, be like the parent, I'm going to order a beer as well. And they were apparently Budweiser beers, and his name was Bud at age 3, and it's stuck the whole time. True story. 2 away, back to top of the order, Chase Utley.
That's one heck of a way to get a nickname.
Yeah, I agree. Someone asked him the other day, I think it was yesterday when he came to town, they said, do you like the nickname? Because the story goes, it's okay. I like the name, but the story behind it's not something I'm real proud of.
He's 3. He didn't know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what everybody should say. Utley has scored the 1 run for the Dodgers tonight. He walked in the 4th to begin the inning, and then he scored. Lined out to left the first time up. Rockies with a shift on the infield for him. And he'll hit that one to center field. Shallow, long run for Blackmon, but it's going to be Adames taking care of business out behind second base. Good inning for De La Rosa. Getting up the run, he comes back with a 1-2-3, 5th inning.
Probably, I'd like to have Larry Walker. Yeah, I'd like to be able to sit down with him again for a couple hours.
I got you. I wouldn't mind having Jim Tracy come over to my barbecue. He could tell some stories. Hey, Shammy Sham, how you doing?
Spot on. Very nice. Bravo, bravo.
I sent the black bean up to bunt. It's a 3-run dinger dong. I love this game, Shammy.
Oh my goodness, that's just like it.
2-1 on De La Rosa. Jorge struck out his first time up. 1-0 Dodgers. We're in the top of the 6th inning. Just the 2 hits allowed by De La Rosa, 1 by Norris. Pitchers have faced a minimum 8 of 10 innings tonight. Pretty good cut taken there by De La Rosa, but he comes up empty. He was determined on that swing. 2-2.
I'm going to get that run back.
Yep.
One swing.
Do it by myself. Barnes couldn't do it, so I'm going to do it.
That had been an inning earlier, that would have been out.
Or he pulled the ball a little bit, would have been out. Hit it straight away center.
Still chuckling over your Jim Tracy impersonation. You had to go on that show, America's Got Talent.
He's one of my favorite guys of all time, though. If I did a real Jim Tracy imitation, I have to speak for like 15 minutes. Because that's what he does. He never stops.
Well, remember his post-game press conference? He would just start talking.
Yeah.
He'd just start talking, and then 10 minutes later, there would finally be a question. But he had answered everything by that time.
That's right. Another good swing. Welcome back to the booth. Jerry Schimmel with Jeff Houston doing our
right here.
Yeah, the imitations here. All right, Larry Walker and Jim Tracy together.
Yeah, that would be
barbecue.
a good. You know what? There'd be a lot of stories. Both of them, Montreal guys.
Yeah.
Because Trace was the bench coach.
Yeah, exactly.
When Larry was there, so you'd have that. And of course, it would be an interesting one.
Yeah.
You know what? And because we spend so much time around Spilly and Soleil, I took them out of the equation. Yeah, they just weren't even part of it. Sorry, I know Spilly's in the back in the studio tonight. So sorry, Spilly, but I see you enough.
So if you ask Jim Tracy, hey, what kind of hitter was Walker? Unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable, Shammy.
Oh my goodness.
Charlie Blackmon, the hitter. Striking out was De La Rosa. 1 down here in the 6th. Charlie looks at strike 1. Third at bat for Blackmon. He's flied out and popped out to short. Brandon on the tweet says, how about Chuck Nasty, Charlie Blackmon? That'll work.
That would work too.
Yeah, heck yeah. That's a strike called lower into the strike zone to Blackmon. 1-2 on Charlie. Rocky's trying to get something going offensively.
Just really haven't figured out Bud Norris tonight. Just when you're sitting on that slider, he'll pump a fastball in there and vice versa.
The word was tonight with Bud Norris that a lot of people kind of expected something like this. He's a real competitive guy, a bulldog type pitcher. He was on a bad team in Atlanta, gets traded to a good team. He's from California. Folks thought, you know what, this is a night for Bud Norris to really have a great outing, and boy, so far so good for him.
Well, he doesn't feel the pressure of, hey, I am replacing Clayton Kershaw. I think that's the key for a veteran guy. If it was a younger guy, he's probably feeling, I got to try to do what Kershaw does every night, and it might implode.
This one hit well to right. Puig on the run. It's over his head. He's got it off the wall. Great arm. Throws to second, but not in time for Charlie Blackmon.
Well, they lost a guy a couple days ago in Jock Peterson who ran into the wall after making a catch. And I think Puig was thinking the same thing because he started to slow up right before that wall was coming, and it hit off the base of the wall. There's a little topspin on it. Watch Puig right there. He started, once he hit the warning track, he started to worry about where that wall was going to be. You'll see on the Subaru Supermo. But Charlie says, okay, I'll take that double.
It's a good thing Charlie Blackmon's got good speed, because he played that well on that one hop and fired into second. But that's a one-out double, 14th this year for Blackmon as doubles go, and now you've got Christian Adames at the plate. Rockies have a chance to tie the ball game with a base hit. Swing and a miss.
Well, Jock Peterson Tuesday in Milwaukee catches the ball and then doesn't have time to brace himself, slams hard into that wall. Went on the DL today with an injury to his right shoulder. You see how he's holding it close to his side. And that's when they made the move and called up the veteran Will Venable.
Another swing and a miss by Adames on an off-speed pitch. So after the double to Blackmon, 0-2 on Adames. He's grounded out twice to second tonight. Norris 86 pitches, 61 for strikes to this point in the game. He's been outstanding against a hot-hitting team in the Rockies, who lead the National League in runs scored coming into the game. Down that left field line, it's a long run for Kendrick, and he's going to make the catch. 2 away.
You can take it behind the scenes tours of Coors Field. Group and individual tickets available year round. Call 303 Rockies. Get behind the scenes.
Now Nolan Arenado at the plate with 2 outs and a chance to drive in that run and tie the ball game up, but he has struck out twice tonight against Bud Norris. The Blackmon double, just his second hit tonight for the Rockies, and the Dodgers have 2 hits. Nolan 65 RBIs, looking for another. Hits that one to left field, but that's playable. Kendrick started back, now comes in. They came off the end of his bat, and that's out number 3. Rockies in the 6th inning threatened, but they're unable to score. Still 1-0 Los Angeles. Folks, here's this week's CenturyLink High-Speed Challenge question. Which root sports talent stole the most bases in his Major League Baseball career? Spielborgs, Sullivan, or my man Jeff Hewson? And so far, here's how people are voting, thinking Ryan Spielborgs has the most stolen bases, then Corey Sullivan, and just not a tremendous amount of faith in C, Jeff Hewson.
Just have to wait to see what the final tally is.
Yes, yeah, we do.
Yeah, maybe if it was home runs.
That is a good question. It wouldn't, I guess, take a long time to get on the internet figured out, but it's a very good question. Corey Seager is the hitter for the Dodgers. 1 ball, 1 strike with him. You struck out and singled against De La Rosa tonight, and just 62 pitches for De La Rosa at this point in the game.
Well, he only threw 7 pitches in the 5th inning.
That helps. And it's a strike call to Seager, and he didn't like that call.
Caught the Subaru strike zone.
Corey Seager came into this year as the #1 prospect in all of baseball, and he's not disappointed anybody. It's this one to right. Cargo's on the move. He's going to get it.
Third baseman, Justin Turner.
Jumped by Gonzalez to get that first out. Now Justin Turner will come up for the Dodgers.
Well, both corner outfielders tonight have had some jumps to get line drives.
Always talking about the outfield defense again. He said when you got Parra out there, it might be as good as any in baseball. And Barnes in left, probably not much of a drop-off. Turner has lined to left to Brandon Barnes and has struck out against De La Rosa. And ball 1 with that curveball. Rockies felt like in the offseason it was very important to pick up a good outfielder defensively, and they did that with Parra, and he's working his way back. And they've got one with Barnes as well. There is action out in the Dodger bullpen. That's Adam Liberatore. I mentioned that pitch count for Bud Norris getting up there. Liberatore has been terrific this year.
88 pitches for Bud Norris.
Foul ball down that left field line. 2-1.
Well, and a lot of travel, a lot of things happened in the last couple of days to Bud Norris. He's sitting in his locker, I'm sure, wearing the Braves uniform, get that tap on the shoulder. Hey, manager and GM want to see you. What? Yeah, you just been traded.
Sitting with Rick Honeycutt, the longtime pitching coach here in Los Angeles. 3-1 now to Turner. Walt Weiss said one of the keys tonight, working ahead of hitters. De La Rosa has done that, but here 3-1 with Turner. And that's a strike call. Turner thought he had ball 4.
The 3-1 pitch turned over the fastball. Nick, it split the body of the catcher. Hundley, but not this time.
Another walk given up by De La Rosa.
Yeah, 4th walk tonight for Jorge.
First baseman,
Folks,
Adrian
find the latest
Gonzalez.
Albuquerque Isotopes jerseys, t-shirts, novelties, and much more at abqisotopes.com. Albuquerque Isotopes, proud AAA affiliate of the Colorado Rockies. And the All-Stars for the AAA All-Star game. Jordan Patterson, an outfielder for Albuquerque, is named to the team. He's having a terrific season at .322 and getting more and more RBIs as the year has gone on. He has really brought the batting average up since the beginning of the year, and the RBIs are following. And the Hartford Yard Goats, with no fewer than 6 different players named to the Eastern League All-Star team. David Dahl, a big prospect. German Marquez, a highly rated right-handed pitcher. Tapia, a great outfielder. Dylan Thomas is having a great year. Ground ball hit weakly towards second off the bat of Gonzalez. Second for 1. On to first. It's a double play. Rockies had the right man running toward first base in Gonzalez, and they turned the double play. No harm done, sixth inning. We head to the seventh. 1-0 Dodgers. It is time for the Cooney Lexus look back in this ball game, and the pitchers have been the story tonight. Jorge De La Rosa for the Rockies has thrown 6 innings, given up just the 1 run, and kept the pitch count down. Got his share of strikeouts as well. And then Bud Norris with a terrific effort tonight for the Dodgers. 6 shutout innings against the Rockies, and he's got tonight 7 strikeouts. Back to Dodger Stadium, 1-0. Dodgers have the lead, and a pitching change now for Los Angeles. That is it for Bud Norris. So the Rockies hoping they can catch a break by the starter, and a very good one, giving way to Adam Liberatore.
0.72 ERA. That's second among National League relievers. 19 consecutive scoreless games over 14 in the third inning for Liberatore. Pretty low numbers. He's the primary left-hander out of that bullpen. They still have J.P. Howell, who saved games, a lot of games when he was with Tampa Bay.
21st round pick, so Liberatore's beaten some odds. He's going to start with Carlos Gonzalez, lefty on left. Reynolds a right-hander, another lefty after that, Descalso. Shift is on for Cargo, and strike 1. 0 for 2 tonight. Hit the ball hard his last time up.
So right now the hitters are going over the scouting report for Adam out on the hill. He'll average 93 on his fastball, but can touch 95 or 96. He'll drop in a slider, about 84, and an occasional changeup. Carlos in his career 0 for 4 against Adam. Time to turn that around, make it 1 for 5.
39 appearances a year ago for the Dodgers in his rookie season. But year 2 has been very impressive. Catcher set up outside, and the pitch is too far out there, 2-1.
Some guys, that second year is the hard year. First year, the league doesn't know you. You have the advantage, but then after that, they get the book. So that's sophomore season. That's why they have a sophomore slump.
Not this guy so far.
Nope.
Challenge him inside with the high fastball. Swing and a miss. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Liberatore from Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, football country. One to nothing Dodgers, and just 4 total hits in this game. We're in the top of the 7th inning. Liberatore's pitch, and that's outside. Full count on Cargo. Liberatore out of Tennessee Tech. Tommy John surgery while he was in college. That really hampered his development. Tampa Bay selected him in the draft and traded to the Dodgers. Here's a payoff pitch. And it's fouled away. Big crowd tonight on this Friday night in Los Angeles. The Dodger Stadium. 59,000 capacity, largest stadium in baseball. When they originally built this, they had talked about enclosing it, taking the 3 levels all the way around the outfield. Didn't do that, just put bleachers out in right and left. Still looks beautiful.
Yes, it does.
That one hit well, the left center field, but this is playable. Maybe off the end of his bat a little bit, and Kendrick hauls it in.
First baseman Mark Reynolds.
Well, tonight the Rockies also enjoyed one of their minor leaguers. Their #1 pick, Riley Pint, made his professional debut tonight. 2 scoreless innings with a couple of strikeouts. 14 of 23 pitches for strikes and hit 96 on the gun.
Oh, impressive debut. A guy that took some time off after high school. Pitching for Grand Junction. They were at Idaho Falls tonight. They'll really monitor and limit what's going on as far as the number of innings, the workload, what's happened in between his starts, how much he's throwing. Just try to get him acclimated to to baseball, professional baseball life.
Mark Reynolds, a hitter for the Rockies, 1-0 the count against Liberatore. And pitches outside. Looking at Jeff Bridich after Riley Pint was selected by the Rockies with that first-round pick. He said, he said 102 on the gun. He said, what's scary, there might be more in there.
For a young kid like that?
Yeah. 6'4", 200 pounds. He said his mechanics are okay. They're not great. And he still hit 102. Now backed by Reynolds. He was on that 2-0 pitch.
And what impressed me about Riley, too, when he came up to the booth and we were talking to him, how mature he was and his answers, everything. He wasn't overwhelmed.
Nope, I agree with you. Same way at his press conference. Well, I think he's got a terrific personality and great work. He's the whole package, the Rockies believe. Baseball got away in the outfield. They retrieved that, and Mark Reynolds back at the batter's box.
Might have been a beach ball.
Was it?
Yeah. That happens here every once in a while.
Like twice a game. That's inside, 3-1. So we went 3-2 with Cargo, 3-1 here now with Mark Reynolds. I don't know if that's a culprit or not, but there is a beach ball in the building. I think that is the one that was on the field.
Keep it away from the usher. Now it's keep away.
That's right. And that's ball 4 to Reynolds. So the Rockies get a 1-out base runner here in the 7th inning. Let's see if they can take advantage of that.
Second baseman Daniel Descalso.
Live Rockies Baseball is here with MLB.com at bat on your smartphone or tablet. You can stay connected with stats, news, and much, much more. Follow the Rockies on your phone with MLB.com at bat.
So Daniel Descalso is up there, who has been on base twice tonight. He has singled, so got one of the 2 hits, and he also walked. Walked in the 5th, and Hundley hit the next pitch to the shortstop for a double play. Reynolds away from first. And the pitch, foul right back. Who was on that pitch was Descalso. 1 strike.
So confident at the plate now is Daniel. You just tell he's in a good place with his mechanics of his swing. I like the slight movement with his hands to free those up. Something that he worked hard on this winter.
That's high and outside, 1-1. Spring training, of course, had the injury, got hit by a pitch, broke the bone, and then has come back after that offensively with vengeance. Got hit by that pitch in spring training. We were doing the game on the radio, and he just sort of shook it off, and he didn't think it was a problem. And then next day, it swelled up, and the X-ray was taken, and it was a broken bone. Former Cardinal. He is a Californian as well, from Northern California.
Well, Daniel's first home run this year came here at Dodger Stadium.
And it was during a night game, so he had to pull it. He knew he had to pull the ball a little bit, and he did that.
June 7th, that was off of Joe Blanton.
1-2 pitch to Descalso, and that missing away, 2-2. Here's that home run that Jeff referenced.
You know what? It's always fun to flash back when you're doing this. Yeah, I'll take a couple more of those this year. That was
Second baseman number 9, DJ LeMahieu.
a long way out there.
Off a lefty. Hit a lefty here. Hit that one foul. Count holds it 2-2 on Descalso. Adam Liberatore, part of that very effective bullpen, as DJ LeMahieu looks on, and we're hoping DJ back in the lineup tomorrow night for Game 2.
Yeah,
so
he was
that possibility.
Yeah, he was very, very encouraged today. Spoke to him briefly before he went out to batting practice, and he says it's feeling good. They had to go through a battery of tests with him today.
Are you saying that LeMahieu actually spoke a few words?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
doesn't say too much.
I think maybe because we had that common denominator. We both were middle infielders. I think he opens up a little bit more.
Just giving DJ Cho, he's just a very quiet guy. He's a very humble man.
Humble.
Very, very quiet. He just goes about his business, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, one of those guys you don't have to worry about. Is he
Yep.
going to be prepared?
Yep.
And there's quite a few guys like this on this team. When we talk about Charlie, I mean, you can go around the whole team.
Yep.
I think that's always makes it easier, better on everybody when you go into a game and you don't have to worry about, is he going to be prepared? What's going to happen with him? I know I've done my work.
Yep. And that's a foul ball as well.
Adrian did not come off the bag
No.
very far.
Talking to LeMahieu the other day as well after he had to sit out because of injury. I said, what is it like when you're in the dugout? He says it's frustrating because I'm not playing, but it's amazing how much you can sit back and learn just by watching from the dugout.
And that's why manager, when somebody's scuffling or they're not hitting, or maybe they've had some trouble out on they pull them out of the lineup for a day or two just to let them watch the game, and that slows the game down for when you go back out there.
DJ saying too, it's amazing because I sit back in a situation like this and watch a couple, 3 games in a row and realize how much I want to be out there, how much I love it. It's quite a battle here. Liberatore and Descalso. And strike 3 called. I think Daniel thought that ball was low, but it's a big punch out for Liberatore.
Subaru Supermo. A 4-seam fastball. I don't think it was low.
No, it wasn't low.
I think Daniel might have been looking for something else, or he's just upset with himself. And that'll be it for Adam as Dave Roberts goes to his bullpen for Lewis Coleman. We'll be back.
Ty Wigginton, oh my
nice
gosh.
one, Mark.
That is a blast in the past right there. I'll tell you somebody who you'd have a good time at a barbecue with. Michael Kadire would be a good guest to have. He could do your card tricks for you.
Oh,
be the entertainment.
Forgot about the card tricks.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. New pitcher, Lewis Coleman, right-hander for the Dodgers.
Lewis is a little of the unconventional style where he'll drop down more. Fastball 89 on average and a slider about 81. Obviously gets you to hit the ball down on the ground.
Up and down with Kansas City each of the last 5 years before this season. And he's got Nick Hundley down 0-2.
This is why Dave Roberts made the switch. You see in the numbers with Liberatore and Lewis Coleman against righties.
Pretty good 1-2 combination for the Dodgers. Part of that bullpen has been outstanding this year. Finally got time at the plate.
Well, the Dodgers have the lowest bullpen ERA going. 3.06 leads the National League. Washington second at 3.13.
First year manager Dave Roberts. 2 outs, runner at first base. 0-2 on Nick Hundley. Coleman's pitch that bounced up there. Good stop by Grandal. Saved the runner from getting to second base.
Well, it's imperative for the catcher. And this ball's going down. The hard part too is when it hits, it'll spin back because of the rotation on the baseball, so it'll kick back the opposite way of which way the baseball is going originally.
Yep.
So the catcher has to gauge that and kind of put some big thought behind that.
Yeah, catchers would tell you the fastball that bounces up there is fine. It's the breaking pitches, and especially from sidearm guys, the ball bounces funny. And Grandal did a nice job of judging that one.
Yeah, so then it's kind of a guesstimate of where that ball is going to go.
Nick Hundley was talking about that not long ago. He said you get a good feel for that after a while. Hundley's got a count of 1-2, and that's also in the dirt. Grandal able to smother that one. 2-2. Tomorrow night in Game 2, Chad Bettis gets the ball for the Rockies. Scott Kazmir as Henley Jansen starts to warm up. There's that Baez.
That's Baez.
That's Pedro Baez, their 8th inning guy. Henley Jansen, their closer. Both big fellas. And then on Sunday afternoon, John Gray and Julio Urias. And a line drive at the shortstop, Seager. Oh, hit well by Hundley, but it's out number 3, and the Rockies unable to do any damage against Dodger pitching. Still 1-0 Los Angeles. Colorado Rockies baseball on Root Sports is brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. We're back in Los Angeles. Rockies and Dodgers in a good pitchers duel, 1-0. The Dodgers with the lead. The Dodgers score their one run off De La Rosa way back in the 4th inning. We're in the bottom of the 7th. And a sub on the radio tonight, Jenny Kavnar with her husband Steve in the Rockies radio booth, working with Jack Corrigan tonight on our flagship station, 850 KOA. She always knows when she's on camera, doesn't she?
That's right. Brought Steve along to help with the stats.
Yep. Not the first time Jenny's been in that radio booth, and I've worked with her there. Does a fantastic job, just like on TV. Speaking of fantastic jobs, De La Rosa's pretty darn close to that. We'll start out with Howie Kendrick here in the 7th. Strike one. 73 pitches thrown.
Well, the last 2 innings in the 5th and the 6th, just a total of 19 pitches.
The Rockies do have some bullpen action.
And for Jorge tonight, 43 strikes, 31 balls, and really the only inning that might have given him a little trouble as far as that goes was that 4th inning. Chad Qualls now in the bullpen for the Rockies. Jorge Spot due up 2nd next inning. For Jorge, his best previous outing here at Dodger Stadium was back on May 16, 2015. He matched up against Zach Greinke and beat him. The Rockies won that game 7-1, but for Jorge, 7 1/3, couple hits, no runs, 3 strikeouts.
He's got Kendrick twice tonight. Falling behind though, 3-1 to Kendrick. And that one's grounded to right side. That's a base hit past Descalso. Just the 3rd hit for the Dodgers tonight off of De La Rosa. All 3 have been singles.
Right fielder, number 66.
And all 3 just the seeing eye variety. Corey Seager up the middle. It was Adrian Gonzalez to right field, and now Howie Kendrick to right field. You know Jorge's disappointed, but sometimes that's just luck.
Yep, not a bad pitch at all.
No.
Descalso shaded up the middle. Leadoff man aboard. Yasiel Puig is now the hitter. He struck out and walked against Jorge tonight. Fouled away. Strike one on Puig. Correct myself. I said earlier that it would be Julio Urias on Sunday for the Dodgers. Brandon McCarthy, the Colorado native, is going to pitch for the Dodgers on Sunday.
Well, we're going to push Julio back to Monday. Brandon McCarthy coming off the 60-day disabled list.
A little bit inside to Puig, 1-1. So Dodgers putting 2 players on the disabled list the last 2 days. Peterson and Kershaw. This guy came off the DL a few days back. Puig, so getting 1 healthy but losing 2.
Keep an eye on Howie Kendrick. 7 for 7 stealing bases.
Yeah, he can still run. Very good base runner. Maybe not blazing speed, but he knows how to get it done.
He's their team leader with the 7.
And that one is going to be a base hit to right field. And Kendrick will stop at second base.
They're going to say, go ahead. You wouldn't try to go to 3rd.
That ball wouldn't hit that hard, but it falls in front of Cargo. First and second, nobody out for the Dodgers. Well, the pitch count is not a big issue at this point for De La Rosa. He's got now Trace Thompson, who he's got out once and also walked tonight.
Trace was part of the video review in the 4th inning when he hit that ball up the middle, originally called safe. Then the call was overturned to get out of the inning with only the 1 run.
Third base coach is Chris Woodward, but he did not look toward home when it went through his signs. Don't think there's any bunt put on, at least at this point. Swinging away and missing, and the ball gets away from Hundley, and the runners advance. Now 2 in scoring position for the Dodgers.
That's unfortunate. Going off the glove of Nick. Subaru Supermo catches the end of the glove. I think that'll go down as a pass ball. Didn't hit the dirt. We were hoping that somehow it was a foul tip.
Now the infield will have to be drawn in for the Rockies to try to cut this run off. 1 ball, 1 strike on Thompson. 2-1. And balk has been called against De La Rosa. That's going to score a run for the Dodgers.
Now you can't come out and argue a balk, but you can't come out and ask what happened. And then that's what Walt was doing.
See if we can pick up what happened.
What they're saying, there was no pause, but it was not the home plate umpire that called it.
That's a tough call.
Yeah.
2-1 to Thompson.
The reason I say it wasn't the home plate umpire because he didn't throw his hands up. You could hear it, but there was no verbal indication with the hands being thrown in the air.
So a run is in. Kendrick scored. Puig is at third. Nobody out in the inning. 2-0 Dodgers. And that one hit to left, but that's playable for Barnes. Should be deep enough to score Puig. Here comes a throw home. And got him. Out!
Folks, you're not going to see a quicker transfer from an outfielder. That was an infield double play transfer. That was a gorgeous throw from Brandon Barnes, but how quick he got rid of this baseball. Unbelievable.
Catcher number 9, Yasmani
Just
Grandal.
watch the hand transfer. He works behind the ball. Now right here. And that looked like a catcher, the way catchers get it and throw it right by their ear. As he was catching that, that's when he was transferring it, and it had to be a throw on the money to get Puig, who can run extremely well.
Wow, what a play. What a play defensively. I wonder if Puig even got the plate.
I don't think he did, because by that time, you see on the Subaru Supermo, the tag was applied to the shoulder. He's out, no question about it.
Just a perfect throw. Great exchange, a quick exchange, but a perfect one-hopper as well. We've been singing the praises of Barnes defensively all year, and there's another example of why.
Fortunately, it was the pass ball in the balk to allow the second run to score.
Hitter is Grandal, and count 2-1.
Will Venable, who was just called up today when Jock Peterson was put on the DL, has come out to the on-deck circle.
Played by Barnes, quiet to the crowd for now.
Yes, it did.
It's high. De La Rosa 88 pitches now. Looked like a shortstop making a relay throw to
Didn't
home.
it?
Yeah. a base hit to left. Grandal, a 177 hitter, able to come up with a base hit with 2 outs. Venable, as Jeff said, was the on-deck guy. He's a left-handed hitter. He might just leave De La Rosa out there. We'll see what Weiss is thinking. It's going to be Steve Foster, the pitching coach, to come out and talk about Venable.
That's what this is. Gonzalez Germain has now joined Chad Qualls. Qualls isn't throwing anymore. He's loose. He's ready to go. While we have a moment, I'll tell you, the first 10,000 fans through the gates on Thursday, July 7th, will receive a pop socket courtesy of Brakes Plus.
So here's Will Venable, the former Padre. Left-handed hitter, so left on left, and we've got a man at first base and 2 outs in the inning. A run home for the Dodgers on the balk. Fly ball down the left field line. Barnes a long run against the sidewall. He can't get to it. Barnes is thinking, if that's close, I'm going to tumble into the stands.
I'll dive. Whatever needs to happen.
One strike on Will Venable. 1 for 10. Rockies have an infield shift on for him. And he bounces that one weakly toward first. Reynolds will grab it, step on the bag. And the inning is over. Dodgers come up with 1. It could have been more than that if it wasn't for Brandon Barnes and this incredible defensive play. Jason Giambi, that's a good one too. That'd be fun to have at a barbecue. 2-0 Dodgers lead. We're in the top of the 8th inning with a new pitcher now for the Dodgers. New right fielder Venable stayed in the game. He's in right. And Joe Blanton on the mound for Los Angeles.
37th game for Joe Blanton. In right field, coming in on the double switch after he just stays in the ball game is Will Venable. Joe Blanton, 142 batting average against. And righties 143, lefties 140. So Joe's really reinvented himself. He used to just be the starting pitcher, would come in, would throw 90% fastballs. Kind of just challenge you, say, here it is, hit it if you can. Now he'll mix in all 4 pitches: slider, curveballs, changeups.
Brandon Barnes, a little weakly hit pop up behind second base and grabbed by Utley for the first out. And the day after every Rockies win, get 50% off your online order at Papa John's. Use the promo code ROXWIN, ROXWIN, at papajohns.com.
Hitter number 6, Ryan Rayburn.
His 17-year-old son who takes advantage of that all the time. Ryan Rayburn is the pinch hitter here for De La Rosa. 5 for 23 as a pinch hitter, but 2 homers and 4 RBIs and 4 walks on the year. And strike 1 from Blanton. Blanton's been around a long time. Came up in 2004 with Oakland. Switched for Oakland, Philadelphia, Dodgers, now back with the Dodgers, the Angels, Kansas City, and Pittsburgh. And chase that he did, and the count is 0-2.
But now it's more off speed than it is fastballs for Joe Blanton.
Long look for a sign. He's ready. 0-2. That one just missed.
Rendell tried to steal that pitch. It was off the Subaru strike zone. Tried to catch it and pull it back.
University of Kentucky product is Joe Blanton. And that's low.
You said the University of Kentucky?
Yes, sir.
Jenny will work that into her broadcast at some point, as big a Kentucky fan as she is.
Former first-round draft pick of Oakland, 2004, 24th pick overall. There's Jenny. She had some very small shoes to fill in that radio booth. Swing and a miss with Rayburn, 2 outs.
Slider from Joe Blanton.
Left fielder number 19, Charlie
Finish
Blackmon.
it. See the red dot on the baseball. That's what hitters will tell you they see, but most of the time they see it too late. One of the toughest pitches between that and the cut fastball. Those are the 2 toughest pitches for hitters to recognize.
So the veteran Blanton with the first 2 outs. Now Charlie Blackmon, who has the only extra base hit of the ball game, a double in the 6th inning. And strike 1 to him with a off-speed pitch. Five hits for the Dodgers, 2 for the Rockies. And that one's up the middle. That's going to be a base hit again for Charlie Blackmon. So the Rockies tonight with a pair of hits from Charlie Blackmon, a double and a single. And with 2 outs, a man at first base.
Number 18, Christian Adames.
Somehow Christian has to get on to allow Nolan or Cargo, one of those guys with a couple runners on.
Certainly the possibility of Charlie Blackmon trying to steal a base and get into scoring position.
I think he would do it if it was still 1-0.
Yeah, gotcha. Way outside, ball 1 to Adames, who is 0 for 3 tonight. It's grounded out twice and flied out to left. Those at bats were against the starter Morris, or Norris, I should say. Switch hitter hitting left-handed against Joe Blanton.
Just trying to figure out. He keeps asking Angel Hernandez, the second base umpire, how many outs there are. Kept looking back at him. They were having a conversation.
I wonder what he was looking at. Joe Blanton has won as many as 16 games in a season back in 2006, a while back. 16-12 with Oakland. He won 12 games in 16, then 14 in 3 consecutive years. Reliever these days, and very good one. Swing and a miss, throw to second base, and a stolen base for Charlie Blackmon.
And he picked the right pitch to run on. Off-speed pitch. Head down, not even looking back. 7th stolen base of the season for Charlie. And made it easily.
So man in scoring position for Adames. So 1-2 count now on Christian. Rockies trying to crack through against the Dodgers in the 8th inning. Did he go around? He did not. He held his swing. 2-2 on Christian Adames. Blanton's got his sign. Blackmon's got his lead from second. Bluff out that direction by Blanton. Rockies had Blackmon at second base in the 6th inning. Couldn't get him in. He's there again here in the 8th. A 2-2 pitch. Bouncer barehanded by Blanton, and he throws to first base. Almost threw it away. Wow. He was falling back toward first base and grabbed it with his bare hand. How about that? And threw the rainbow to first. Colorado Rockies Baseball and Root Sports is brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. And by Reserve Casino, I-70 West, exit 243 in Central City. Beautiful night in Los Angeles as the Rockies and Dodgers do battle in Game 1, beginning a 6-game road trip for the Rockies. 2-0 Dodgers. And a great effort by De La Rosa, giving way to the right-hander Gonzalez Germain.
Second on the team with 29 1/3 innings of relief for Gonzalez. Just 239 batting average against. It's imperative he keeps the ball game right here, 2-0. It's going to be tough in the 9th inning against Kenley Jansen, but you don't want that deficit to be any larger.
Chase Utley is the man he sees first, top of the order here for the Dodgers. Utley is 0 for 2 with a walk tonight. Just missed. 1 ball, 1 strike. Rockies will tell you this guy's got terrific stuff. Sometimes the command will elude him. The walks will hurt him. But they like his upside if he can throw a few more strikes.
Above average changeup for Gonzalez.
Fouled away off the bat of Utley in a naturally moving fastball that can hit 95 like it did right there.
And that's what makes him valuable, because he's not just a guy that you can pitch against righties. He'll go against left-handed pitching as well. Pitch multiple innings. He has one of those rubber arms. He keeps throwing, and you want him up the next day, throw again.
And a ground ball up the middle against his shift. Rockies had that one played right. Adames will fire to first to get the out.
Well, fans, you've elected to celebrate Charlie Blackmon during the next player-elect game on July 7th. You can buy the ticket package online now and get an exclusive Blackmon t-shirt. July 7th. Chuck Nasty. And again, happy 30th birthday to Charlie.
2 hits on his birthday.
And a stolen base.
And a stolen base. Corey Seager is going to rip one into right field for a base hit. He can run a little bit. Carlos Gonzalez up with the ball and a hold him to a single. That's his second hit for him.
And a 14-game hitting streak for Corey Seager.
Justin Turner.
This guy's got superstar written all over him, Corey Seager. So 1 down, man at first for Justin Turner. He has walked and gone 0 for 2. Besides that, a line out to left and a strikeout. Hit down the left field line. It could be trouble. It's off the wall. Barnes with a good field. He'll fire in and hold Seager at third. Into second base is Turner. That's an extra base hit for the Dodgers. They've got something cooking. Second and third and 1 down.
Justin Turner does not wait around. Riding fastball back inside. Just had to open the hips up early to get the barrel there. Short off the wall. Brandon gets it back in. Corey hesitated off the bat. Not sure why he did that, where it was hit. Maybe he thought by the sound of that ball coming off the bat that there was a chance to be caught out in left field. I've seen some catches already by the outfielders.
With the way he runs, I thought he would be home, or at least trying to.
4 of the 7 Dodger hits tonight have come on the first pitch, including both hits this inning.
Now the infield will come in with Adrian Gonzalez at the plate.
You got to watch Adrian on the first pitch. Well, you got to be. Just saw something a moment ago. Right before that pitch came, Justin Turner out at second base threw his left hand up, indicating that they wanted that he was giving the sign of that pitch was coming inside.
Interesting.
I'd go ahead and walk him now. I don't. I know that first pitch was, excuse me, I thought it was 2-0. I thought they called the first one. I was still thinking about that pitch, you know, where Justin was relaying signs.
So 1-1 on Gonzalez. Gonzalez Germain on the mound, trying to keep the depth hit at 2. And they won't do that. That'll score at least 1. Turner's going to be held at third base. 3-0 Los Angeles. Gonzalez comes through again, second RBI tonight.
Christian Gonzalez has done this so many times in his career. Both pitches, where strikes were up in the zone, and he gets on top of it. Most of the times for lefties, they like the ball down. And that'll be it for Gonzalez-Germain.
Yeah, 3 consecutive hits, a single, a double, and a single, and he will be relieved by Walt Weiss. 3-0. The Rockies are trailing, out hit now 8-3 in the ball game, and Walt Weiss going back to his bullpen. Now our Kubota pitching performance from tonight. We look at the 2 starting pitchers in this ball game. Outstanding. Jorge De La Rosa for the Rockies going 7, and Bud Norris for the Dodgers going 6. And it's a good effort for De La Rosa that might be wasted tonight as the Rockies trail this 3-0. But what a performance, debut performance for Bud Norris of the Dodgers. And now the new pitcher for the Rockies, Chad Qualls.
Chad's got to clean up a little bit of the mess that was left by Gonzalez-Germain. There's 17 pitches thrown in the last 5 days for Chad. That was on Tuesday.
1st and 3rd for the Dodgers, 1 down. Howie Kendrick will look at a pitch low for ball 1. A slider thrown first offering by Qualls. Kendrick scored the 2nd run for the Dodgers on the balk by De La Rosa. That's hit well to right. Cargo is going to see it go over his head. Going to score at least 1. Gonzalez will hold at 3rd base into 2nd base. Kendrick. It is 4-0 Los Angeles. It's 4 consecutive hits now for the Dodgers in this 8th inning.
With 2 singles and 2 doubles. Howie Kendrick driving in his 15th run. One of the sinker,
Scott Van Slyke,
but didn't go down low enough and over the head of Carlos Gonzalez. The 2 guys in scoring position for the pitch hitter, Scott Van Slyke.
So the pitcher spot now after the double switch. So Van Slyke, a right-handed hitter against Qualls, with the infield in again. And in there, strike 1 to Van Slyke. Looking for his first hit as a pinch hitter in 5 strikeouts and 8 at-bats. Swing and a miss. Good slider there by Chad Qualls.
Most of the damage that Van Slyke has done in his career have come against left-handed pitching.
2. Chad Coles could use a strikeout right here. Get that infield backed up, get that second out. Not going to get it. That's hit well to left. Barnes makes a catch up against the wall. Fire into third. The run from third will score. Gonzalez able to trot home. 5-0 Dodgers. And Slake almost had a home run. They'll settle for a sacrifice fly.
Brandon Barnes has put on a defensive clinic tonight. Throw out at home. Puig in the 7.
Number 21, Trayce Thompson.
Couple line drives. Now this off the bat of Van Slyke. He's running all the way back. Knows he's going to run into the wall. Looks it all the way on in the Subaru Supermo before he hits the wall. That's hard to hang on to that ball because you know that's coming, but you also have to secure the baseball before you do that.
So 2 away. 3 runs are into the inning in this 8th for the Dodgers. Trayce Thompson is the hitter. And did he go around on that one? He did not. Check for swing in time on the slider. Still a runner at third. Pedro Baez throwing again in that Dodger bullpen. Might not need Kenley Jansen tonight.
He sat down after they scored the runs. Take it out of the save situation. All 3 runs in this inning so far will be charged to Gonzalez Germain.
And hit foul. 2-1 on Thompson. Thompson with a single and 3 trips tonight to the plate. Chops another one at the plate, foul. Rockies hoping they're going to get some reinforcements in the bullpen soon. Jake McGee is real close to coming back. Adam Ottavino's out on assignment. Chris Russin still awaiting. He is getting healthier to come back and help out that bullpen.
Well, and then the starting rotation. Last night, Tyler Chatwood threw 5 scoreless innings for Modesto. Gave up a single, couple walks, 3 strikeouts. 67 pitches thrown. Jeff Hoffman, another fine performance, even though he took the loss down in, for Albuquerque. He had 6 innings, 6 hits, only 2 earned runs given up.
Ground ball to short. Adames with that one. It should be out number 3. It is. But damage done by the Dodgers as they put up 3 in the bottom of the 8th inning. 5-0 Los Angeles as we head to the 9th. pitcher for the Dodgers now for the bullpen. They will not need their closer. Van Slyke stays in the ball game. He's in left field now for Kendrick. And Pedro Baez on the mound. He's not their closer, Jeff, but this guy throws about as hard as any closer you might find.
Yeah, he has the stuff to definitely close. Fastball will be 97. He will touch 100 miles an hour. That's why the 42 strikeouts in 35 2/3 innings and only 11 walks for somebody that throws as hard as Baez does. Second opening day roster this year, and three tries for Pedro.
6 foot, 240 pounds, Pedro Baez, the Dominican. We get the heart of the Rockies order here, starting with Arenado, Gonzalez, and then Reynolds. 0-0 for 3. Struck out twice and has flied to left. Guys in the studio said it right. Bud Norris with an outstanding performance tonight, taking the spot of Clayton Kershaw tonight in that rotation. Didn't disappoint anyone.
8 strikeouts, only gave up the 2 hits. There were a lot of strikes and quality strikes. It just wasn't, ones right over the heart of the plate. He was nipping the corners, pitching all the quadrants that you talk about. With 63 strikes and 88 pitches.
He was in total command against the Rockies tonight. Just 3 hits allowed by Dodger pitching tonight. Rockies out hit 9-3. That's a ball, 2-1. Sorry, 1-1 to Nolan. Dodgers 3-3 against the Rockies this year. And the Rockies 2-1 in this building. Second series of the season starting tonight. Tied up on that pitch. 1-2. De La Rosa had won 3 consecutive starts after his bullpen stint. Not going to get the win tonight, but he pitched well again. It was encouraging again tonight for the veteran left-hander.
Dealt with traffic a couple innings, but at the end of this game, he's going to walk away in 7 innings, only giving up 2 earned runs. 5 hits. He did have 4 walks, also 4 strikeouts.
Swinging a nice strike 3. Got him with the fastball at 98 miles an hour. Who wants tacos? Fans, follow @RootSports_RM on Twitter to receive alerts for the Rockies taco special when the Rockies score 7 or more runs in a game. They're 7 runs away from 7 tonight. 5-0 they trail as Carlos Gonzalez stands in. Dodgers have slowed down this red-hot hitter tonight. Did hit the ball on a line to second his second time up. He's 0 for 3. Pedro Baez always from the stretch. Fire that one right by Cargo. 98 again.
It's real deliberate with the stretch and then the quick arm coming through. Talk about some arm speed. Pedro has that.
All the way off the bat of Gonzalez. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Cargo. Baez came up in 2014. He had 20 appearances then, 52 a year ago. We went 4-2 and hit 3.2 earned run average. Dodgers always seem to find those flamethrowers from their bullpen.
That's the way all bullpens are going now.
Seems that way, doesn't it? Including the Rockies.
Yeah.
That's high. 2 balls and 2 strikes. And you got Brad Ziegler in Arizona.
Well, yeah, but he drops that. I mean, he's a submarine type guy. He's got to do something different to survive.
It's a nice little compliment from all the hard
It
throwers
is.
before him. Two-two pitch. Fouled away. And got the off-speed pitch that time at 89. And the count holding at 2-2 with Pedro Baez. No runs on 3 hits for the Rockies, 5 runs, 9 hits tonight for the Dodgers. A run 4th inning, a run 7th inning, and then 3 more in the 8th. Full count.
For the Rockies, they haven't had a base runner past second base tonight.
Nope.
Charlie was there twice, and Descalso was also there once.
Back-to-back games now for the Rockies with the offense. It just hasn't clicked against opposing pitching. And game 3 against Toronto was similar to tonight. And that's ball 4, so Cargo draws the walk with 1 out. And the Rockies will get to Mark Reynolds.
First baseman number 12, Mark Reynolds.
Well, we have a second here. Just want to say thanks for filling in for Drew tonight. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thanks, Jeff.
As
Enjoy.
always.
Thank you, sir. Wish I could have got you a little better game.
Well, you had to wear a tie, too. That was the other thing.
I forced you to wear a
I
tie,
know.
didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Sorry about that. No, I enjoyed it, Huey.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah,
It's,
it's been fun.
you know, other than what's happening right now, you'd like to have some more offense for sure. But I think you got to be encouraged by what De La Rosa did again tonight. But find that before you go into the game tomorrow against Scott Kazmir.
Yep. And Chad Bettis for the Rockies tomorrow. Chad coming off a solid start his last time out. Well, he's talking about Chad Bettis for the game. Said we're trying to slow him down a little bit. He's gotten a little too quick. And he said that's made a difference the last couple of starts. Night game tomorrow, then Sunday afternoon. That's a foul ball. That one off of Reynolds' front foot.
It'll be John Gray on Sunday. It's Brandon McCarthy. Tomorrow, Scott Kazmir, 6-3. It's Chad Bettis at 6-5. Chad went through that stretch, as you referenced, where it's one thing to work fast, but it's another thing to work too fast. And when things would start to speed up in the game, he would want to work faster and faster instead of maybe taking a deep breath, backing off the rubber for a moment, saying, what do I need to do with this pitch? And when you're thinking that way, I think it helps slow down the body too. He was just rushing too much to the plate and leaving more pitches up and in the middle part of the zone.
Yep, that's what Walt was saying. Was it affected his mechanics a little bit? Swing and a miss by Reynolds on the Baez pitch at 98 miles an hour. Rockies down to their final out.
Second baseman number 3, Daniel Descalso.
Daniel Descalso will try to keep this game going. He's been on base twice tonight. He singled and walked. Last time up, struck out looking. At first base now, Gonzalez will play behind Gonzalez with 2 outs. Cargo will get to second base. Defensive indifference. So a runner at second for just the 3rd time tonight. Blackman, as Jeff said, was there twice. Now Cargo here in the 9th is there with 2 outs. Strike 1 on Descalso. Broke his bat to Hopper to second. Utley to first, and that's the ball game. And the Dodgers take game 1. Some terrific pitching tonight by the Dodgers gets them a 5-0 victory over the Rockies. The Rockies fall to 37 and 42 on the year. They are now 19 and 22 on the road. 5-0, Dodgers get the victory in game one. Let's go back to Denver at our studio. Mark Stout and Ryan Spilborghs.